promoter, Mr. Bob Arum, and brought to you by Geico. This bout is scheduled for 12 rounds for the WBO Welterweight Championship of the World. And now to the millions watching on ESPN and around the world, this is boxing, this is Top Rank, and this is the main event! Our judges at ringside, Dave Moretti, Patricia Morris-Jarman, and Benoit Roussel. And the man in charge at the sound of the bell, Mr. Tony Weeks. Introducing first out of the blue corner. He weighed in at 147 pounds, wearing white trunks with red and blue trim. He brings a record of 39 wins, only 2 defeats, 27 of those victories coming by way of knockout. The former welterweight world champion from Sheffield, England, the special one, Kell Brook! Introducing out of the red corner. He weighed in at 146.4 pounds, wearing black trunks with gold trim. He brings a perfect record, 36 wins, no defeats, 27 victories coming by way of knockout. The former lightweight world champion, the former undisputed junior welterweight world champion, the reigning, defending WBO welterweight world champion, the pound-for-pound king from Omaha, Nebraska, Terrence "Bud" Crawford!
All right, here we go. 12 rounds of action scheduled in the welterweight division. You know, guys have told us, world champions have told us, guys that are used to fighting in their backyard like Bud has, like Jose Ramirez has, this feels different. It took me a while to get started. Bud is known as somewhat of a slow starter. How will we see things play out early on? Questions are about to be answered. Here's Tony Weeks with some final instructions.
Okay, right here is good. Right here is good. I want a good, clean fight. Obey my commands at all times. Above all, protect yourselves at all times. Let's go.
All right, they touch him up. Let's do this. One thing that has been talked about a lot this week is the size difference of these two. How much will Kell weigh when we step in the ring? How much will Bud? Is he that much bigger? Kell's argument all week long, is all promotion long, I'm the naturally bigger, stronger guy. So we'll see how much of that size he can impose on the champ in Terrence "Bud" Crawford. Christina Poncher and former WBO 140-pound world champ Chris Algieri here with you on the call. Thank you for watching us wherever in the world that you are as we get ready for our championship main event. This fight scheduled for 12 rounds. Terrence Crawford in the blue and gold trunks. Kell Brook repping the UK in the white with red and blue. And right away, you see Terrence Crawford starting in the orthodox stance, but he will switch, arguably the best to ever do it, between southpaw and orthodox. Fighting a lot more recently, Chris, in that southpaw stance, but here he is starting in the orthodox.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually to see him coming out orthodox. I expected him to come out southpaw. I think Kell Brook probably expected him to as well. There you see that jab from Kell Brook. He actually has an excellent jab. Uses it very well. Is very active with it, is Kell Brook. So that's going to be a big weapon for him, especially early on.
Sure is, and it's something that Crawford and his team are aware of, telling us in our fighter meetings this week. Terrence saying, I see him trying to out-jab me and time me and continue to jab before me, but I have a pretty strong, pretty quick jab as well. We saw a lot of that in that fight against Postal, who a lot of people talked about Victor Postal's jab, and Crawford beat him to that. So we'll see which game plan prevails here, as the 1-2 of Brook is also a beautiful, a thing of beauty to watch.
Now, speaking about jabs, one of the big parts of a good jab is being long, and Terrence Crawford has a 74-inch reach advantage for a welterweight, which is unheard of.
Yeah, and only a 5'8" welterweight.
Exactly, yeah.
We talked about Brook's resume, getting him to this point. Some people saying the best opponent that Crawford has faced, being that he beat Sean Porter to win that welterweight world title in 2014. Moved up to 160, fought Gennady Golovkin, lost. Errol Spence was his last fight at 147, lost the IBF title there back in 2017. Is he still a high-class caliber fighter as he was then, racking up 3 wins since that Errol Spence loss? Or has Father Time taken its toll on the 34-year-old and on his face, albeit orbital fractures in both sides coming off the losses to Gennady Golovkin and Errol Spence?
Kell Brook doing a good job, landing some nice, hard, solid jabs so far. Has been able to out-jab the longer Terence Crawford in this first round.
There it is. There's another strong jab from Kell Brook early. But staying orthodox.
Something Kell Brook has to be careful of is a lot of times he overthrows his punches. Sometimes it gets tall, leaving himself open. Look for Terence Crawford to come over the top at times.
Kell also saying, I can switch too, and I may implement that in my game plan as well, as you see now, Bud Crawford going southpaw.
Yeah, we've seen Kell switch sides and fight out of the south position nice quite well. Good luck.
Lead left hook from Kell Brook in the last 10 seconds here of round 1.
And a good body jab.
Terence Crawford coming off the longest layoff of his...
Tick for tack. Very, very tactical from the outset. I think both men fighting with a lot of respect for the other.
Do you think that Kell Brook looks that much bigger than Bud tonight? I know size was a big thing that we talked about leading up.
I do see him being bigger. You know, I understand him being a bigger guy. I don't think it's going to be that important as you know, Kell has been talking about all week. You know, at the end of the day, skills pay the bills, and this fight's not going to come down to who's the bigger man.
Yeah, that seems to be what Kell. Well, that was his narrative that he was pushing. I'm bigger, I'm stronger. He hasn't seen anybody my size. That was his narrative that he pushed the whole time. And
a little surprising, honestly, because I don't think he's the kind of guy who fights using his size that much. He's very quick, he's explosive, he's a good counterpuncher, he's a good jab. He's not a physically, you know, demanding pressure fighter who's going to use his physical girth or size to push him.
And this has been a little bit of a chess match here through 2 rounds, but I think I was more concerned about the size. Chris Algieri here with you. Our main event of the evening, pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the world, ESPN's pound for pound #1, Terence Crawford against Kell Brook.
Now, if you notice, we got a great view right here looking at the feet. We're seeing a southpaw orthodox, and you're seeing both men battling for that outside position. That's very, very important when you are fighting an opposite stance, to make sure that you have the outside position. That's the dominant position when you're fighting an opposite stance. See that what happened just there. Kell Brook pulling back with his chin up in the air. That's where he really needs to be careful with the reach and the timing of Terence Crawford as you're pulling away.
Crawford giving him a different look here, starting this round for the first time in the fight as a southpaw. The first 2 rounds were as orthodox as used. Take a look at some of the punch stats. A 36% clip landed for Kell Brook. About the same amount of punches thrown there. And that right strong hand jab from Crawford in this southpaw position is where he's very comfortable with that. His strongest hand out in front, as you see him throw it there to the body and then doubling it up back up top.
Yeah, he definitely seems to be way more comfortable out fighting out that southpaw stance. We've seen it more in recent years, him starting fights from that, fighting entire fights out of the southpaw position.
Which is why I'm surprised he's always still listed as an orthodox fighter, because as of late, just to your point, he's done so much work. If you kind of logged the minutes, I know CompuBox doesn't keep track of those things, they keep track of punches, but I think it's fair to say more as a southpaw than an orthodox. But
yeah, I think at this point, if we were going to check the residency of his righty versus southpaw, I think you're right. I think we probably
hands-free.
Southpaw at this point.
Stop, I got you.
And for an opponent, Chris, what kind of challenges does that pose, especially in your preparation? I mean, you're trying to bring in guys that have both stances. You're trying to make adjustments on the fly in the ring.
Well, that's the thing about training camp. You have a finite amount of time to work on specifics for the craft, for the actual fight in front of you. So with Terence Crawford, you have to prepare for 2 guys. You know, so it makes it that much more difficult. You know?
2 nice right hands there from Kell Brook.
Things starting to heat up here in round number 3.
Terence Crawford in the States before the bell, a minus 1,100 underdog, meaning you'd have to bet $1,100 on Terence Crawford to win 100. Chris and I were talking about, you know, earlier in the week, it was 7-1 odds. We were like, wow, I can't believe Brook is that much of an underdog. He doesn't look it here yet through 3 rounds, but Crawford's starting to get his respect. That strong right jab, having some success here in round 3 in that, southpaw position.
For the people at home, they might not think a whole lot is going on, but there's a tremendous amount of tactical work from both men right now.
Nice right hand there from Brook and a counter from Bud.
All these shifts and movements and feints.
Big right hand from
right
Crawford at the 10-second mark in round 3. Things are heating up here. Nice combination from Crawford. Then he goes down to the body as we see things start to...
First thing to do when you got a puncher like Terrence Crawford in front of you, who throws punches from such strange angles and generates power. Yeah, I was excited for this fight. I did a lot of homework reviewing tape. And I did see a number of things that Kell Brook does that actually falls right into the hands of Terrence Crawford. I was hoping that he was going to come in here understanding that. Seems like he has so far, but as the rounds go on, more of who you are starts to show up.
Back in the southpaw stance as he started round 3. Again here in round 4, there's a minor little swelling abrasion on the right eye of Crawford as he gets tagged, as I say that, by a left hand of Kell Brook.
Their heads sliced together at some point too. I think both.
And maybe that was caused by that clash of heads. Here we go again.
That's
Kell Brook, the rope, hold him up. Big shot from Crawford.
5,
And
6,
that is a knockdown.
7, 8. Come to me. You all right? Give you a chance.
And Kell Brook looks like he is still a little bit out of it. Ken Crawford in the show in round 4.
I think it was a right hook as
Crawford looks to finish. Big shot from Kell Brook. He is hurt. And it is over.
No.
Terrence Bud Crawford, TKO 4. That's all she wrote.